Hey guys, it's Andrea, and this video is the sketching process of making my self-portrait, which is actually a sister piece to this portrait. I made both of these portraits a little over a year ago for one of my classes in university. With both of them, I was exploring my identity and acceptance of said identity. And these two works were actually inspired by this previous piece I made the same year titled Edencia. When it came to actually making this portrait, I started with a 19 by 24 piece of Bristol paper. At the time, this was much larger than I was used to working with. However, my professor had recommended I go bigger, and I ultimately felt up to the challenge, and in the end, I felt very comfortable with the size I went with. I started with a light sketch first when I transferred the image from my iPad to the paper. And once I had that done, I went in and refined all the details, in addition to adding in zones, aka just very lightly making note of where the value changes on the face. That being said, this particular piece still had some challenges. This was actually my second attempt at it. The first one just did not fit my vision of what I wanted it to be, and I ultimately felt that restarting was the best option rather than trying to fix it. This is why I ended up spending a lot of time with the sketch the second go around, making sure everything was to my liking before I began adding color or rendering. The entire process of making the sketch was probably 40 minutes or so, and honestly a lot of it was focused on the rainbow. I spent time making sure the different sections were relatively even, as well as following that smooth organic line rather than having it feel rigid. I spent a lot of time focusing on the rainbow because that's where a lot of my initial problems with the first version of this portrait happened. A lot of it felt awkward and didn't really mesh as well as I wanted to with the actual portrait. I also used a kneaded eraser a lot during this process, which is always beneficial to have on hand when working with graphite or charcoal. For those of you who don't know what a kneaded eraser is, it is an eraser that is somewhat moldable. You can sort of form different shapes with it. I usually end up sort of squishing it into a sort of fine tip or smushing it down when I want to erase larger sections. In this case, I really liked using a kneaded eraser because I didn't want to risk smudging anything else, especially when you think of a typical eraser and how it leaves behind those sort of flakes and then you sort of brush it off. I didn't want to risk smudging anything during that process of brushing off any eraser flakes. And that's one of the main reasons why I really love a kneaded eraser, besides the actual rendering process, where a kneaded eraser allows you to just lightly pick up graphite or charcoal. I'll also be uploading some of my rendering process for this portrait, which was both simple but time consuming. Unfortunately, I do not have a lot of footage of it, simply because this was long before I had an actual tripod and I was mainly just resting things behind my phone so I can sort of film stuff. I also did a lot of my work with just a regular lead pencil, which some people are a fan of, some people aren't. I get many mixed feelings about this from like people I know. Some people like using a lead pencil, some people think that you have to use the different artist pencils. I just like the, I guess you could say, the accessibility of a lead pencil. It is very convenient to have, and you can get light, you can get dark because of the 2B lead. And in some cases when I was rendering, I did go in and use some charcoal or a darker pencil to really get those intense shadows. But for the most part, I did use a lead pencil, and it's something I really enjoy using, and it's very, like I said, it's very convenient, and just a great reminder that you don't always need super expensive materials, and in some cases the more convenient, the more accessible material is just as fine. And in some cases you do want to splurge on a little something extra because the quality is really worth the difference. So yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed some insight into my process, and I will see you guys in next week's video.